Your pipeline just finished. It ran perfectly, retrieve, prompt, generate, green across the board. And it handed you back a ruling that sounds absolutely flawless. Majestic, authoritative. The problem is, you have no idea if a single word of it is true. Here's the answer, up on the witness stand. Per the October policy update, refunds are guaranteed within 14 days. Fluent, confident, it reads like it was written by your very best lawyer. There's just one catch. There is no October policy. There is no 14-day rule. The model invented all of it, a total fabrication, stated under oath with absolute confidence. That's the trap of production AI. The better it writes, the harder the lie is to spot, and you cannot put a human on the stand to fact-check 10,000 rulings a day. It's too slow. So we hire internal affairs, an automated evaluator, an AI whose only job is to audit the other AI on every single answer. This is LLM evaluation. Start with the obvious plan, just read the answers and grade them by hand. One reviewer, a spreadsheet, a thumbs up or thumbs down. It works for about 40 answers an hour, but production doesn't ship 40 answers. It ships 50,000 a day. Your one human reviewer never catches up, it's slow, it's expensive, and by the time they've graded yesterday, today has already buried them. So we hand the grading to a machine. An automated grader scores every answer in milliseconds, all day, from a fixed rubric, fast, cheap, and perfectly consistent. Which raises the real question: who is actually qualified to grade an answer? There are 3 ways to answer that, 3 approaches to evaluation. The first is the one everyone reaches for, because it scales to infinity. You take the answer and you hand it to another language model, a strong one, along with a plain English grading rubric. It reads the answer, checks it against the rubric, and returns a score with its reasoning. This is LLM-as-a-Judge. Give it a job title, the polygraph. You hook the answer straight up to the machine, and in milliseconds it tells you whether the testimony holds. No humans, no waiting, no bottleneck. One warning: a judge can be biased. It tends to reward long, confident-sounding answers even when they're wrong. So before you trust its verdicts, you calibrate it against known good examples. The second approach is stricter. Instead of asking a judge for an opinion, you compare the answer to a certified transcript, the one correct answer, written out in advance. You line the model's answer up against that golden answer and measure the overlap. Classic scores like BLEU and Rouge count matching words. Newer ones compare the meaning. The closer the match, the higher the grade. This is reference-based evaluation. The job title, the transcript match. It's objective, cheap, and repeatable. There's no opinion involved, just how close you landed to the answer key. The catch: someone has to handwrite that answer key for every single question. And it punishes a perfectly correct answer that just happens to be worded differently. Great for hard facts, clumsy for open-ended replies. The third approach is the oldest one in the book, and still the most trusted. Put it in front of a human. But you can't afford a human on every case, so you get smart about which cases you send up. You take the full docket, 50,000 answers, and you sample the hardest 1%, the edge cases, the disagreements, the ones the machine's already flagged. Those, and only those, go to an expert reviewer. This is human in the loop, the appeals court. And here's the clever part: the expert's verdicts don't just grade those cases. They become the gold answers you use to calibrate the automated judges from the first 2 approaches. So you don't pick one approach, you stack them. Humans set the standard, reference scores, catch the hard, factual stuff, and the language model judge runs everything else at full scale. Quick map check. We've named the problem a confident liar you can't audit by hand, and we've covered the 3 ways to grade at scale. That's the how. Now for the what. Because knowing who grades is only half the story. Next, we look at exactly what they measure, starting with the 3 needles that decide whether a single answer can be trusted. Picture the polygraph itself. Not one dial, 3 needles, all wired to the same suspect. And every single one has to stay out of the red before you trust the answer. Needle 1 watches the question against the evidence. Before anything else, did we even pull the right documents? Needle 2 watches the evidence against the answer. Did the model stick to what those documents actually said? And Needle 3 watches the question against the answer. Did it actually respond to what was asked? Question, evidence, answer, 3 points of a triangle, and each needle measures one side. This trio has a name, the RAG Triad. Let's take them one at a time. Start where the whole trial can go wrong before it even begins, the evidence. Someone asks, "What's our refund window?" And a clerk goes to the locker to pull the relevant files. The first needle ignores the final answer completely. It only compares the question to the chunks the retriever pulled, this side of the triangle, question against evidence, and it spikes hard into the red. You asked about refunds, and the retriever handed over a marketing page. The evidence bag is garbage, and the needle knows it before the model writes a single word. This is context relevance, the evidence auditor. Its whole job is catching noise and irrelevance in what you retrieved. If it fails, nothing downstream can be trusted, because the trial started with the wrong file. Now say the evidence was perfect. The real danger is what the model does with it, because this is exactly where the confident lie sneaks in. Watch the answer make a claim. The second needle ignores the question entirely. It takes the final answer and maps every claim back to the evidence chunks, evidence against answer, this side of the triangle. Red, the answer says the policy changed in October, but the evidence file never mentions October or any date at all. The claim is grounded in nothing. It was invented out of thin air. This is groundedness, also called faithfulness, the perjury detector. This is the needle that catches hallucinations, an answer that sounds flawless but appears nowhere in the source. Beautiful, authoritative, and completely made up. Here's the sneaky one. The answer can be perfectly grounded, every fact traceable to the evidence, and still be completely useless, because it never actually answered you. The third needle ignores the evidence. It compares the question directly to the answer, this last side of the triangle, question against answer. Read again. You asked a yes or no question, did the policy change? And the model wrote 3 grounded, truthful paragraphs about the history of the company without ever saying yes or no. This is answer relevance, the measure of helpfulness, the deflection catcher. Everything true, everything grounded, and it still dodged the question. All 3 needles green, and only then do you have a trustworthy answer. So the triad clears the answer on truth, the evidence was right, the claims were grounded, and it stayed on topic. That's a truthful answer. But truthful is not the same as shippable. 3 more gauges decide whether it's actually ready for a real user. Is it correct? Is it safe? And is it fast enough and cheap enough to run? Let's wire them in. Here's a subtle trap. An answer can be perfectly grounded, faithfully quoting your evidence, and still be flat wrong. Because what if the evidence itself was wrong? So this gauge doesn't compare the answer to the evidence. It compares it to ground truth, the law book, the verified correct value. The answer says the limit is $500, the truth is $250. Read, this is correctness and helpfulness, the fact checker. Groundedness asks, did you quote the file? Correctness asks, was the file even right? You need both. A faithful answer to a wrong document is still a wrong answer. Now step away from truth entirely and watch conduct. It doesn't matter how correct an answer is if it's the kind of thing that gets you sued, fined, or trending for the wrong reasons. Every answer passes a scanner on its way out the door. It checks for toxicity, for leaked personal data, for jailbreak attempts that slipped past the guardrails, and for bias. One flag and the needle spikes. This is safety and toxicity, the bailiff. The answer is held in contempt and never reaches the user. On this gauge, there is no partial credit. It's clean or it's out. And the last gauge has nothing to do with the words at all. Justice delayed is justice denied, and a perfect answer nobody waits around for is worthless. So you watch the docket: latency, how long the answer took; cost, how many cents it burned per call; and throughput, how many requests you can serve every second. Nearly 5 seconds and 9 cents a call read. This is performance, the court clerk. A flawless, grounded, safe answer that arrives too slowly or costs too much still loses the case. Fast and affordable, or it never ships. And this is the whole point of internal affairs. When, and only when, every needle sits in the green, the evidence relevant, the answer grounded, the response on topic, correct, safe, and fast, then, and only then, do you have a system you can trust. So here's the design takeaway. Evaluating an AI isn't about proving it's smart. It's about building an automated cage around what it's allowed to say and refusing to ship anything that rattles the bars. And here's the thing. When a needle keeps spiking, 90% of the time the root cause is the same. Your documents were split badly, so the retriever never stood a chance. So next, we dismantle exactly that. Advanced chunking strategies. Subscribe, and I'll see you at the next trial.